to me, my X-Men. What's good, everybody? I am Winston A. Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blurred, and this is my spoiler review for the long-awaited episodes 1 and 2 of X-Men 97. This is the continuation of the 90s cartoon, man. I've been holding this in for a week. For a week straight, I have seen this. I have wanted to talk about it with you guys. And instead of just trying to get all my thoughts out at once, I waited until I got the screeners again so I could rewatch it a second time. I enjoyed watching it with the premiere crowd, which was a fan event. At the same time, it was very nice to be able to hear everything, to enjoy all of the little moments throughout these first few episodes. So I just really want to get into it and talk about it and whatnot, because we genuinely got to see something that I think most of us dream about, is the idea of something that was beloved from childhood, not feeling just like a full-on reboot or anything like that, but to succinctly connect from that previous property into the new one. It happens from time to time. It rarely happens well, but this is a situation where this was done excellently. Exceptionally is probably the word I want to go with. And I when I tell you I am immediately back into the 90s when this happens. I mean, look, the classic team right on the Blackbird. Obviously, this first story, remember, this is a spoiler review. The team is out to go and protect a new young mutant who, he's clearly got some bread because he's kidnapped by the Friends of Humanity, and they're like, we're gonna get paid a whole bunch in order to sell you to this dude for target practice. And this kid is ultimately Sunspot, and he's just like, hey, I'll pay you whatever he's paying you, I'll double it, don't even worry about it. But in comes Scott, Bishop, and Storm. Storm, Cyclops, and Bishop. I should use all their code names. Either way, they come in and they save the day, and the Friends of Humanity have Sentinel Tech, which then gets them concerned that this kid is going to be chased by the Friends of Humanity, and where the Sentinel Tech is coming from. And so you end up where Sunspot gets to meet the team, very a la Jubilee when the first series started, where she gets rescued by the team and then brought into this crazy world, and trying to figure all that out. Now, we dive right into it. Like, you are kind of meeting the team, and Sunspot, you only see him meet a handful of people like Beast, re-meet Storm, Jubilee, etc. What we do see is Scott coming back, and he's hot, but the rest of the team didn't go with him. But that's because they're all kind of trying to cope with the death of Charles. And if I believe I remember correctly, this is about 6 months, because the death certificate said November, and this is taking place in the spring, early summer, something like that. So either way, they want Sunspot to chill. He won't. He goes to a rave instead, while they are also trying to interrogate Trask, because, or was it Gyrick? Gyrick and Trask are the two that are up to no good. I want to say it's Trask, and he's the one who's in jail. He's the one who assassinated Professor X. So Jean reads his mind in order to figure out where the Sentinel Tech was coming from, since he was one of the two people most responsible for Sentinels. We see that Scott is also talking to a liaison, Dr. Carter, in the UN. So the mutants really are working together with government agencies, human leaders, what have you. And so there's kind of that, like, hey, can you figure it out? We're going to do our investigation, etc. But as this is all going down, they ultimately get out of Trask that Gyrick is the one that's arrested. Trask is the one that built it. That makes more sense. So Gyrick, Jean is able to read his mind with Cerebro, finds out that there's another master mold, and then next thing you know, we're over here getting to the new master mold, fighting Trask and all the Sentinels that are there, and you got a classic battle with the group, man. They're all ready to go, kicking ass and taking names. I mean, we all saw this in the trailer, this combo move that you get with Gambit and Logan, Gambit and Wolverine. Essentially, kinetically charging his adamantium skeleton. So for those that are paying attention, not only does that give him a lot of destructive force, but again, it's kinetic energy. So you notice after he charges, Wolverine speeds up significantly because he's got that little extra boost. And you also get Gambit exploding his staff behind him to really launch him. Beyond all that, a combo off of Morph's stomach as turning into the Blob to just one shot Master Mold. And for those that don't remember, that don't remember how it went down with Master Mold the first time, because this is actually one of my favorite episodes of the entire OG series. Master Mold had to be taken out by throwing an entire Blackbird at him. Like, it had to be rigged with explosives, and the Blackbird had to be thrown in him to destroy him. So for them to have gotten so strong in this time that they're just doing a quick little combo move and boom, Master Mold's gone in one. That's wild. But it ends. The episode ends with Sunspot going home, the team realizing that Jean and Cyclops are leaving, and that's when the alarm goes off and they race into the office. And that's where they end up seeing that Magneto is there. I don't have a photo of Magneto. I'm sorry about that. This is from the official assets from Disney, so I do apologize. Magneto is there, and he said, according to Charles's last will and testament, I'm now the leader of the X-Men. So what's up, my X-Men? And that's when we dive right into episode 2. Scott is pissed. He don't trust it. I don't blame him. This has been their mortal enemy this entire time. Charles is the only reason that they're friendly with each other. And ultimately, they're like, okay, fine, I guess you're the leader then. We cut to the Morlocks who are being picked on by the Friends Against Humanity. And poor Leech, man, he just want to live his life. He ain't trying to be bothered. And ultimately, they get saved by Magneto. He beats the crap out of him. You think he's going to murder him, but again, he said he's trying to live by Charles's creed. So he just hurts them, but he doesn't kill them. And then comes back and is like, hey, can you trust me now? When all of a sudden here comes the UN. The UN is like, yo, he needs to, go to jail. And then ultimately Magneto's like, okay, the only way I feel I can get you to trust me is if I say, if I go to this trial and I pass this trial, if I'm acquitted, will you guys all trust me? And they're like, yeah, that's typically how it goes. So they go off to the UN to have essentially a trial of Magneto. Simultaneously, you have Storm and Jean have a very interesting conversation because, again, Jean and Cyclops had originally talked about leaving. And Jean's main concern is, I don't want my kid to come into such a dangerous world, which I can definitely say that is something that I have heard as far as a sentiment for a lot of folks. If you have anybody that is of a minority or an oppressed group, it's very old school. It's out of date. But I understand kind of where it comes from of you had older black parents that they're not, upset at the idea of their kid being gay because they have anything wrong with that. They just know how hard of a world it is for gay folks. And so there's a large number of contingent of older folks that feel that way. They have nothing against gay people. They just don't want their child to have to suffer. And that's essentially what Jean is saying. She's not ashamed of the idea of being a mutant. She's not even ashamed of the idea if her child came out powerful as a mutant. What she's saying here is that she has watched so much hate thrown at her entire life and the fear and the dangers that they've gone through just because they're mutants. She doesn't want that for her kid. And it is a really touching and a really thoughtful moment because Storm, obviously also being a mutant, but also being a black woman, because it's the same thing. There have been times where, other, not just queer folk, but black folk, brown folk, whatever, if you feel like the world is just coming at you like that you don't want that for your child. And so Storm doesn't persecute Jean or anything like that. She says, you're speaking like a mother. You care for your kid. And that is exactly what a nurturing mother would feel. So I don't judge you, but understand you have a family here, and your family will protect that child and will protect you, and that's what will make sure that everything goes all gravy. It's a very, very touching moment, and to me, probably the most poignant of these first 2 episodes. Fast forward, the trial's going on. Friends Against Humanity come back. We get the X-Cutioner who's come out here and he's decked out and he's whooping ass. He is beating up on the X-Men, man. At the same time, Logan, who's kind of pissed off, he's chilling back with Jean. He is watching all this unfold. He's about to go. We got to get into the city to go help when Jean goes into labor. I forgot to mention Jean's pregnant. So now all of a sudden, he's racing to get to the hospital. Jean's having to do all sorts of like fun telekinetic stuff for people in the streets so they don't get hit by cars and they can make lights. Jean telepathically reaches out to Scott, just being like, "Oh my God, I'm in labor. I need you here." And so Rogue flies Scott to the hospital, and Storm is now in charge. And, Magneto again is collared, so he can't help right now. And then finally, as this fight is kind of going the way of the X-Men, the X-Cutioner pulls out his gun, and it only has one bullet, and he fires it, and Storm sees this and jumps in the way, and then she crashes to the ground. She pisses off Magneto, so he picks up the X-Cutioner, and then all of a sudden Storm is like, "Oh my God, I can't feel the breeze." And I almost forgot a very important little caveat that Magneto said. Magneto hits him with Storm, you're as close to a goddess as we will ever see in our lifetimes. And so now she gets hit by this bullet, and now she does not have her powers anymore. They're gone. We find out later in the episode when Beast does an examination, it's permanent. Her DNA has been rewritten because they took the radiation from the collars that inhibit powers, and it's such a strong burst, it essentially wipes out the X gene, or at least nullifies it permanently. Which is just wild to see. And this is where you think that's it. Magneto's going to lose it because there's nothing he hates more than mutants like dying and whatnot. But the idea of like making them human and taking them, he's seeing red. But he gives an incredible speech when he takes the X-Cutioner and he takes the UN Council, and he goes, "After what you did to Storm, if you had caught me even a couple months ago, you would be dead. But because I'm trying to live better, I'm trying to live like my dear old departed friend wanted me to, you will be spared because I'm reminded that this earth is very grand and it's not these small," he says, "it's not these small little pieces that we make it." And with that, man, he puts him down. X-Cutioner goes to jail. Forgot one little other thing that was happening at the mansion, and this is the thing that I really love about what they're doing with 97 versus the OG. We did get some of the family dynamics in the OG, but this show in particular takes time for each of the characters to essentially live kind of like the family soap opera drama, and I love that. It's expanding more character for us to dive into and to fall more in love with them. We find out that, Rogue and Magneto, they're talking, what's it mean to be a bad guy and become a good guy and earn trust, etc. And for any big X-Men fans know, in most continuities, at some point when Rogue was a part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, she used to hook up with Magneto. And in this case, this is one of the worlds where that is also the case. And so they're kind of having their little fling and they're trying to keep it on the low. I'm curious to see where that goes, especially if Gambit ends up finding out. But ultimately, like I said, they get back. The baby is born and it was healthy. I almost forgot when they get to they have a really interesting moment where the doctor won't perform won't deliver the baby. He's like, "We won't deliver your kind." The excuse is, well, some of you, when you're in distress, your powers get out of control and you can hurt somebody, so we're not going to do it. Really just being a bigot. And so Scott comes up with a brilliant idea when Rogue brings him, "Yo, can you take his medical expertise and do this?" So she uses her powers to get that, and she's like, "I need, XYZ stat, let's go." Starts commanding the nurses, and they're helping out. The baby is healthy, the baby is born, everybody's kind of rallying around that. They're going to give Magneto a chance, but then all of a sudden, Jean finds a letter when she goes to talk to Storm, and Storm has decided to go her own way. And understandably so, she's heartbroken. And she even says that she's like, I'm not connected to you guys in that way, to you guys anymore. I don't have a bond anymore, which is also crazy to me. Because obviously, again, there's no situation where like queerness or skin tone or anything like that, which a lot of times is the stuff that is the allegory for, that you're never gonna have a situation where all of a sudden I'm like whitewash, I've lost all my melanin. I mean, you do have vitiligo, but like, you know what I'm saying? It's different. It is crazy that Storm said we have a bond, we're sisters, etc. But then that quick, it just flipped, and it just goes to show how much of this grieving process she's in. She's in a full depression because her family would stick by her and not only attempt to find a cure, even though Beast has said this is incurable, but they would be there to try and help. And Storm's gone. But again, I get it. That is a massive grief, and I cannot imagine somebody who has worked so hard to control her powers, but genuinely is a goddess. She is worshipped as a goddess, has lost all of that. She's no longer deity. She is as mortal as they come. And then the final thing we get, the little reveal for this episode, is, again, someone showing up at the door. This time, it's Jean Grey. That's what we just cut off there. I've seen the third episode. I'm not going to talk about that right now. We're going to save that for the next one. That's kind of the recap. My big takeaways that I love the title sequences, and that we got to see a little bit of the past and the characters. Before, it would always be the same kind of sequence of stuff. We got some of the old stuff, but we got scenes from the show both now and in the past, reanimated to show us what's happened. So we, in the second episode, deal with both Storm and the Morlocks. Storm at one point was the leader. She won the title of leader in ritual combat. And that's what they're showing in that moment. But we're dealing with the Morlocks again. So that was a nice little kind of look into that. There is a point at which Jean, and I forgot the first episode, she saw a weird vision of things to come, with Master Mold and all that. That's beside the point. In the second episode, again, title sequence, you see her as the Dark Phoenix. That's around the time when Jean died. And so the fact that now, for those that are big comic fans, you're familiar with the fact that Jean has been cloned by Mr. Sinister, and he's made Madeline Pryor. And so now we're going to have to deal with that storyline, which I think is brilliant. We know that Sinister was going to be the main villain, as been talked about in press releases, and you also saw the teasing of it with more, Sinister all around him messing with his head, so we know that that's going to come into play again as well. But it's those details. It's the fact that you took the same kind of scoring and you made it your own and updated, but it's exactly the same. It's just got that new kind of spit shine on it, man. That boss. The voice actor, you had enough voice actors come back that you could then pair it with, the voice actors that are here to replace some of the folks. Everybody did a phenomenal job. Again, little things. So, for example, Jubilee, when she's with Sunspot and trying to convince him, they're at a rave. He's one dance, and she's out here using her fireworks as glow stick type situations. It's little things like that to remember the time. So clearly they did such a good job of diving back into the 90s, but then doing the little things that make the mutants, that make the X-Men more human. They really are. Everything from childbirth and all that, to partying, to adopted found family. It has always been so well done, and I think that's why, for so many people, the X-Men kind of trumped a lot of other superheroes growing up. And knowing that they're coming back into the MCU, letting this show be the thing that reminds us, because that was what we got into the X-Men for in the first place. For a lot of us, was this show that then either pushed us to the books or the books pushed us to the show, and it all was just collectively together. This is getting us ready for that live action, and I cannot wait. But I am loving it out of the animated stuff, and I want more and more and more of it. But I want to know what you think. Are you vibing? Do you feel like this is getting right back to where we wanted it, where we were at? Do you think it's not really for you? You think it's a little off? Because they kept the same animation style, they just updated it for 2024. I know some people feel like at times when people do that, that's blasphemous. I don't. I think it's absolutely beautiful, but I want to know what you think. You know what I'm saying? What characters are you most looking forward to seeing? Because we've already been told we're going to see plenty of other mutants that aren't necessarily on this current team. And we will also see plenty of Marvel cameos, period. So I'm curious which superheroes will pop up, because in the original animated series, we did have a crossover with Spider-Man, the animated series, for sure. We saw Alpha Flight. We saw little moments where you didn't see Captain America, but you saw the shield. all sorts of stuff, let alone the fact if Storm's going off on her own right now, maybe she goes to Wakanda. Maybe this is a storyline where she ends up with T'Challa. Who knows? Because Wakanda tends to be a place full of good tech. Now, they might keep it very within it, in which case I can think of a handful of other mutants that, or people in just the X-Men kind of verse that could potentially cure her. But it could also be really interesting if she goes to Wakanda. So anyway, I want to know what you think. Let me know. If you haven't already, man, please be sure to subscribe to the channel down below and hit that notification bell, man, so you know when stuff's going on. I'm going to be coming at these episodes as they drop. And I've got some more cool stuff that I've in the works with developing. So once the show is over, if I'm not quite ready to reveal that, don't go anywhere. I'll be back. I just want to get things kind of in a nice little groove, so you have content all the time, man. I know the consistency is the key, and that's why you guys come in. So again, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you on the next one, man. And check me out on Capes and Cows over with Christian Harloff on Fridays. Till then, guys.